Welcome back to our channel. This is Jared from 3C's Recreation. Like always, I got Braxton behind the camera and I got Caden over there. Hopefully I'm gonna get him to help me with the video here as we get into it. So, real quick, this is a 4-stroke oil change video. This is for the newer bikes. I'm gonna go 2020 and newer. Beta maybe, and this is a great example of a bike having a little bit too much oil in it. What in theory, the goal was you would drain all the oil, measure out 750 cc's of oil and put the oil back in. But the problem is not always the 750 cc's come out of the engine side. So it doesn't always drain all the way, and we're putting too much oil back in. So this bike just came in on trade. It's a really clean bike. It's only got 700 miles on it. Customer didn't do anything wrong, but I want to show you guys how to make it better. And Beta also made a sheet that's coming with all of the 2023 bikes. So if you bought a 2023, it's got a new oil change procedure right in this sheet here. If you don't have a copy of this, if you want a copy, it's on our website. If you go down in the description below in this video, you can click in there. Yeah, it'll take you right to our website. It'll bring this up. You guys can right click on the picture because I scanned it in, and then you guys can save it and print it, whatever you guys want to do with it. So we have this available on the website if you want a copy of it. Go there and check it out. Huge shout out to Batman. He bought one of our steering stem lock covers. What they do is they just go on here, we print these in-house. So you go here, it's gonna cover that, and they just slide right on. We're selling them for $8 on an eBay store. All of the money helps us go to our racing efforts, but Batman went above and beyond. He paid us a lot more than the $8. I appreciate that, so shout out to you. So let's get into this oil change video. I removed the shifter to show it because we wanna show you guys if there's too much oil in it. When you do the Beta oil changes, it's gonna show too much in the sight glass all the time until the bike is running. So when the bike is running is when we're actually checking the sight glass. But even so, this one has too much oil in it. So we're gonna start this bike. We have an in-house fume system. So between the bike running and that, it might be a little loud for us to talk over it. So we're gonna start this bike, let it get up to temperature, and we're gonna show you that it still has too much oil in it, even then, and then we will get into the oil change ourselves. We still run the Motul oil here at the shop. I have not switched to the Liqui Moly. We like the Motul stuff. So I have 3 new O-rings, 1 for the oil filter cover, and then both drain plugs, and then we have the new filter. So we will jump into this right now. Okay, so as you guys can see, thanks Kaden. So as you guys can see in there, we just had the bike warmed up, which is good because we need it warmed up for the oil change anyway. But you can see that the oil never really came back down into the sight glass. So we have too much oil in there, which is fine, but we're gonna get that out. So to change the oil on these Betas, first we're gonna remove the skid plate. This customer still has the stock skid plate in the bike. So it's just an 8mm in the front and then an 8mm in the bottom. So we'll get the skid plate out of the way. Then we have 2 different drain plugs. We're gonna get to both the transmission and the engine one. We'll do that now. With the skid plate off, we can see both of our drain plugs. This is the engine drain plug. It's a little bit bigger because it's got that pre-screen in the bottom of it. And then on this side, back here, this is the transmission drain plug right here. They're both a 13mm. And I like to use a 6-point socket when I do these so we don't strip it out. What I mean by that is this socket only has 6 points on it, and where it's a 13, we're just gonna crack these both loose. And we're gonna drain both the engine and the transmission at the same time. We don't need to keep them separate, so they're all going to go in the waste bin anyway. We cracked the drain plugs, they're both draining. You can take the cap off the fillers, that'll help it drain quicker, but honestly there's only like 3/4 of a quart in there anyway, it doesn't take very long. So the cap's got to come off eventually. These drain plugs look really good. So this was his engine side. There's nothing on that screen. We will still clean this. We're gonna use the air jazzer. We'll clean this up a little bit. And we always want to clean up the bottom of the plug and then around the bottom of where it's screwing in. Want to make sure there's no dirt in there, and then we will replace these O-rings. So that one, and then the transmission drain plug, it's always gonna have a little bit of stuff on it. Don't be alarmed. This is a normal amount of stuff on a transmission drain plug. This is your clutch wearing in there. It's normal. This bike's actually, it's been babied, so there's really nothing on this one. So even if you had more than what this one just had, that's totally okay. Again, we're gonna replace the O-ring on this. And our drain pan is big enough that we can let both of those drain, but we can also get to our oil filter. So right here on the left-hand side of the engine, there's two 8mm screws here, and this is what's gonna let us get to the oil filter behind there. You wanna be careful with these screws because they're not a big screw. We don't wanna hurt them when you put them back in. So there are torque values for all this. I will look that up before we put it back together. And so just two screws. Sometimes this oil filter can be hard to get out because it's so long. There's not a great way to grab it, but we do this, and then sometimes you can just kind of rock this back and forth with a wrench there a little bit. It's gonna drain. This oil was like new. He did a pretty good job of changing it, just maybe a little bit too much. Again, in this spot seems to get quite a bit of dirt because it's such a small space between here and the magneto cover. So there's some dirt in here. Again, we want to clean that really well, and we're going to do a new O-ring on this. And here's where that oil filter is hard to get at. What I like to use, if I can find them quickly, I like to use these flat needle nose pliers. So what I do is I just go in there and I pinch it on the outside of it, and it pulls it right out. So that's what I like to use to do this. I'll get a pan for that. So we'll let this drain all the way. We'll get our O-rings replaced on our drain plugs, and we'll get everything ready to reinstall. Okay, everything's prepped, ready to go back on. New O-rings, everything's cleaned, but I want to rock this bike a little bit for you guys in the video to make sure we get all that oil out. If the bike is, you want the bike perfectly up and down, which is where we have it, but there's also a case where you might need to rock a little bit to get a little bit of oil if there's some stuck in the bottom here. So we're going to loosen up on our wheel clamp. And I'm gonna tip this bike side to side so you can see how much more is coming out of like the oil filter housing here. And I can't tell if that's a transmission drain plug back there or the oil, engine oil, but we'll keep bringing this over. And then we'll rock it back the other way as well. And you can see we're getting a bunch out there. So it's good to rock the bike back and forth a couple times. We'll do this and then we'll tighten the bike back down. We've got our new oil filter ready to go on. I like to put a little bit of oil on here so it slides in okay and it doesn't hurt it. So Braxton, come in just a little bit. Get a little bit of this oil on here. A little bit of oil on the end of the filter. And we're gonna slide it in and probably twist it just a little bit to get to go all the way in. It's gonna sit in past the cover. If it's not in all the way, you'll know. And then we got this all cleaned up nice and clean. And same with our new O-ring on here. We'll slide this up here. And they want this torqued to 10 Newton meters or 8 foot-pounds. And this is a 2020 390, so please make sure on your bike you follow your manual. Don't always listen to what I'm telling you for torque values because it could be a different model year, a different bike. So again, this one is 10 Newton meters or 8 foot-pounds is what we're gonna do here. Next, we're gonna install the drain plugs, and the transmission drain plug, they want 20 Newton meters or 15 foot-pounds. Oh, and then the engine oil drain plug is 15 Newton meters or 11 foot-pounds. So we will get both of these installed now. So we're gonna fill the transmission side first, and keep in mind our exhaust is still even kind of hot even though it's been off for a while now. I like the Motul Trans Oil in this side, and we're gonna do 750 cc's. What's cool with the Motul stuff is they give you a built-in funnel, which I think is cool. And it's also nice in their bottle. It's gonna tell us that when there's 250 cc's left, we're done pouring it in. So this side, like I said, is not quite as critical. Engine's still off. We can still just pour this right in. So we will install our trans oil now on the gear case side. We now have the Motul 7100. This is for the engine side. And per the beta instructions, and what we recommend is to fill it with 650 cc's of oil. So we're gonna be left with 350 in the container. And this is our fill plug here. So we're gonna fill this right now with 650 cc's, and then we're gonna start the bike and we'll top it off. So right now there is 350 left in here, which means we got the 650, and you can see even the sight glass is way too high at the moment. That's because there's no oil in the filter or circulated through the engine yet. So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna turn the exhaust fan on, we're gonna start the bike, and we're gonna let it warm up. And as it warms up, it's gonna start using oil, and we'll set the camera here and show that. And then what we're gonna do is as that oil drops, we're gonna take oil out of this and we're gonna fill it. So I'm gonna leave this cap on until we're ready to use it, but we'll take this cap off while the bike is running. We're gonna take it off and we're gonna finish to fill the oil so it's right in the middle of the sight glass. That way we have a perfect amount of oil in the bike. So this bike is a prime example of a bike that didn't need any more oil even added. So you can see we just shut it off. It's at 160 degrees. Bike ran for probably 4 or 5 minutes here in the workshop. So we were able to do a complete oil change, and that's maybe what was happening is there was another 100 cc's of oil in there too much. There must be some oil still trapped in there, even though we rocked it back and forth. It's okay, it's part of the process. So we still have 350 cc's in here, so every 4 oil changes you're gonna get a free one. Again, this is Jared at 3C's Recreation. And if you guys want a copy of the sheet, please check out our website. It's in the description below. It's live on the website. Really appreciate you guys watching our channel. If you found it helpful, please consider liking and subscribing. It helps us grow. We got a lot of really fun stuff planned to bait us all summer, so stay tuned. Thanks for watching.